evening. How are we all doing? And happy chocolate day. I almost boiled the roast first. I had to defrost a chicken in hot water. So, yeah, that took longer than it needed to. And it's just the first time in my life, and to put it into perspective, I am 47 years old, and this is the first time in my life I've ever cooked a full roast dinner, like, ever, on my own. It's kind of sad, really. Like, generally, I'm quite a good cook. I can make stuff, but I've never made a roast before, so, yeah, that was an experience. But it came out alright, it was good. Hopefully no one got food poisoning. So, what are we doing? Sensors, yes. So, we'll finish off doing what we were doing a couple of days ago on the sensors. I'm almost done with it, just a couple more bits to do. And then we'll set up some automation for like finding Earth-like worlds or finding text signatures. We'll try and get the NPC to do something a little bit more advanced. So that'll be interesting to see. Yes, I am wearing a shirt. The only reason I'm wearing a shirt is because I was going through the wardrobe with Claire, chucking out some old stuff, and I just tried it on to see if it still fits, and it does. So I thought, oh, why don't I wear it for the stream and look smart for once, rather than slobbing around in comfy shorts and a t-shirt. Although I am still wearing comfy shorts. Dapper Dan, that's my weekend name. Right, so something you might be interested to see, because it's something that I'm actually quite excited about, is this. So the other day, I noticed that someone had updated a terrain erosion shader on Shader Toy, and they created this. So there was an original one, which I was playing with yonks ago, and a few days back, this guy released this one. And he's done a lot of work, and I encourage anyone who's into this kind of thing to go and check it out, because it's really, really cool. And what he's done is he's used pure noise and just pure algorithmic erosion to create real-time erosion of like fluid erosion on mountains and such, which is something which ordinarily you have to pre-compute. So you can't just do that in real time, especially not in a procedural environment where you could be generating chunks. So you'd have to generate each chunk in isolation, whereas with this solution, you could do an entire planetary surface and it will just erode as you go, which is very cool. So I converted the code that he's got here, actually no, this one here. So I basically just converted this to HLSL, and it works on a sphere now. So we can basically just take the same algorithm, apply that to a sphere, and do the same thing. Now obviously we can't just use this as is. It needs a lot of work in terms of generating continents, generating lowlands, making sure that we have like plates in place for tectonic movement, and then generating mountain ranges to plate boundaries. So there's a lot of stuff we need to do still to turn this into something usable, but you know, fundamentally it means that we can generate realistic mountains with proper erosion, and this is literally just using the default values. I haven't even tweaked it, but it does the job. So on a planetary scale, we can now have properly eroded geological features without having to rely on pre-baked textures, because the current planet solution we're using has basically textures of mountain regions and things on Earth that have been turned into just grayscale maps, and then we're tiling chunks of Earth to create mountain ranges and plains and continents and things. But it's all kind of reusing the same palette of pre-existing textures. And furthermore, we're cramming all of those textures into VRAM, Whereas with this, there are no textures involved. It's done purely algorithmically. It's really quick, and it saves a ton of VRAM, and it looks better to boot, because you can just do planet-wide stuff like this. So yeah, so this is going to be a very, very cool solution once we've worked on it some more. I'm not allowed to touch it, so obviously we've got to get this build out, and we've got some other stuff to do first. But yeah, I'm very, very excited to get into this stuff. But Claire will beat me if I get into it now. So that is going to be shelved for a while, but I just thought you might like to see where the planet tech is heading and the kind of things that we'll be able to do. So I shall delete that and pretend it's not there. And I shall try not to think about it between now and when we get to work on it. Right. What we were going to do, however, is sort out all this sensor stuff. So after the last stream, I went through and I finished off all of the check code for each of these sensors tasks. So all of them should now be properly checking objectives logically. So we know that that task has indeed been completed. And I'm almost done with adding it to the actual NPC. So just giving the NPC the tools it needs to be able to actually action those tasks. And also on the UI panel where we are simulating the button press. So the order gets raised, the NPC basically decides which buttons to press and why, and then the UI actually handles the pressing of those buttons. So like these are the 4 different sensor modes, so all we're doing is we're just sending that through the same path that it would if a player pressed it, just for consistency's sake. And then finally we've got this that's just checking that anything that needs to be done has been done. So what we need to do basically to verify and sign off on all of this is we need to go through each and every one of these and just make sure that the NPC can actually do the job that is being requested of them. So we will go through them one by one, and where gaps are found, we shall fill those gaps. Yes, AJ, exactly. Well, it's the kind of thing I think about when I'm lying in bed at night, because I'll be laying there, drifting off to sleep, and I'll go, erosion filters, because I am sad like that. So, firstly, so we've got short range, medium range, long range, and GPS. Now you'll notice there's more of a delay now when you ask them to do something, because the task gets raised on the system, then they have to see the task, and then they have to action the task. So we've got that delay of, like, the captain's asked the crewman to do something, the crewman then spends some time doing that thing. So if we say short range sensors, you'll see that there was a task that came up on there, and also for the range. If I do that, oops. Yeah, so if I select a different mode, you'll see that the task comes up, then they action that task, and because it's checking 10 times per second to see whether the task has been completed, you'll find that the task is removed practically at the same time that the NPC actually performs that task. Yeah, they're pretty much happening identically. Okay, and then of course we need the ability to zoom in and out, so medium range. So one of the things, actually let me just double check, because we have obviously a task raised every time. So if I click medium range, yeah, it does flash up for a second. I might have to put in a bit of code to stop it raising a task if the sensors are already on medium range. Now we can't get rid of the medium range button because we need it for the sub options. But I think the task appears and disappears so quickly that I guess it's not really an issue, because the task completion check immediately completes because we're already on that mode. So we should be able to zoom in. So if we decrease range, again there is a delay because there's that whole task being raised, task being actioned delay. I think I might increase the amount of zoom that they do when you click it. But yeah, it's working. I think it might also be nice if when we click the radial menu options, that they flash in some way just to indicate that they've been clicked, because right now there's no visual feedback to let you know that you have in fact clicked that option. But that's fine. So zooming is happening and the orders are being cleared. Okay, what was the rest of them then? So perform long range survey, but let's just make sure that we have that on here. No, we don't. So okay, so that works, that works, that works, that works. Those two are working, and then we'll just work our way down the list. So it should be relatively straightforward to plumb in the task handling for a lot of these things, because they're literally just pressing a button. What we can do, Delta, is stick that on the engineering console. Yeah, I'm just thinking what the side effects of that would be. So we need a handler for passing through button presses and have those button presses be server authoritative on the reactor. So yeah, so that side's fine. So we can have a button that goes through player controller, which then basically connects to the reactor, or probably more likely the reactor UI. But then it sends the same signal through. So yes, I think we can do that relatively easily. You'll have to forgive me coughing and spluttering a bit tonight, because I seem to have picked up another bug, which is annoying because I've just got over one. Okay, so this is going to be a multi-step process. So actually, should we borrow some of these boxes just so that we've got the layout? Okay, so our first check is, are we on long range mode? Which is that, basically. Oops. I've got a macro for that now, so we don't need to do any of that business. Right, so does sensor mode equal long range? Okay, so that's our first check. So if we're already on long range mode, then are we already scanning? Well, actually, there's another check we need to do here, which is, are we focusing on the right target? So we just need to make sure that the sensors are focused on the right star system, because this this order might have been sitting in the system, and whatever the sensors have targeted or whatever the command has targeted might have changed at some point before this is actioned. So we just need to go through these checks and just make sure, so that we're not pressing the button unless the sensors are like looking at the right thing. And these are all checks that obviously we'd expect a player to do if faced with this task. So we'll get our census data, and they want to know where's our task. So we're just going to make sure that we have the right thing selected. So our selected sector location. No, that's not what I wanted. Although I think that is the one I want. Both of these are... Oh yeah, so that's equal to that one. Right, we'll go with this for a minute. I might need to change it, but let's see what that says when we actually check it. So that tells us whether or not we have the right star system targeted, but we also need to know on here is we want to know, are we on the right page? So basically got the sector locations, which is all the stars, and the system locations, which is the objects within the star system. So what we're asking is, are we on the right page? As in, are we focused on a star system? And is the star system we're focused on the correct one, as per our current active orders? So that's our check that we're performing. So we'll collapse that. Focusing on right target. Okay, and then the action for this would be to conduct long-range survey. Now, the completion check criteria for this is that there are no planets left in this star system that are scanned to less than knowledge level 1. So as soon as this long-range survey completes, then this task will be deemed as being completed. So we need to get that. And that's going to be a long-range survey. I just need to make sure that that's what we're expecting to see on here. Sensors, long survey, so not quite. This is where using strings as an identifier is sometimes a little bit prone to error. So that's our positive set of checks. So if we're not on the long range mode, then we just need to make sure that we do that. Just grab that color. Switch to long range mode. We should be able to in ASCII, yeah. It's just a case of going through and making sure that when we draw the information on the holo display, we grab the right text field, because the data's there in the back end. We just need to make sure that it's the right one that we're querying. I'm much preferring this layout, by the way, doing the logic checks. I've tried several different approaches to this, and I found this is the way that works best. Just doing checks and actions, rather than doing the whole yes, no thing. Makes it easier to visually see what's going on. So again, this ticks once per second. So if on this tick this fails, we then switch to long range mode, then it's going to be a whole second later before this checks again. So that has the effect of slowing the NPC down and making sure that they're not doing this too quickly. Okay, so if we're not focusing on the right target, then we need to now select the right target. So select the correct star system. So I guess we're checking two separate things here, which might trip us up a little bit. Because first of all, we're checking, are we on the right sensor mode? But then we're also checking, do we have the right thing targeted? So a single affirmative is not necessarily true, because one of these two things might be true, but it only returns true if both are true. So if both are true, that's fine, because that's still relevant then. But if we fail the check, it kind of depends on how it failed as to what we do, because we might already be on the system locations page for a different star, in which case we cannot target the correct system because we're not on the right mode. So I think what I might do is, if that fails, then we'll make sure that we go back to sector locations first anyway, even if we're already on that. And I suppose the easiest way to do that is just to re-trigger the long range mode. So if we just send this as is, that should actually have the effect of just going back to the right mode. So let's make sure we're sending the right one there. So sensors long. Yep. Again, we've got a string mismatch. What's the page? Okay. Yeah, so we'll do that first, and then we will delay a little bit. We can't delay by long, because 1 second later this is all running again, so we just need to make sure that we have a very brief delay between pressing that button and then doing the targeting action. And I suppose targeting wise, we're probably doing that somewhere else, so we can just borrow the code. Yeah, there we go. So that's what we want to do. We want to target. Oh, actually, no, not that one. Not that one at all. Okay, no, so we don't have that. Okay, so we do have a reference to the sensors console, so we do need that. So we'll borrow that for a minute. And then we need to set a target on there. So that's targeting system objects. Target star system. That's basically what we want to do. And I think we will just go ahead and do that. So update sensor long range selection. Okay, and then we need to give it a matching sector location. And this is this is the awkward one, because we have to loop through all the known star systems that are nearby and pick out which one is the one that's currently selected, which is a bit of a monstrous loop to go through. So we need to get sorted. In fact, I might even have a reference to this. What am I looking for? Did I miss something? Don't know, I can't see something that I've missed. Have I missed something? Sorry. I tend to go into my own little world doing stuff. Yeah. Oh, I lost them long ago. Oh, I see, I see. The best thing to catch my eye is if you tag Starship Simulator in what you're saying, then it comes up as a different colour. And my brain goes, ooh, that's a different thing. Let's better look at it. Okay, so that's the details for our current star system. Yeah, so what we actually need is a similar thing, but we need our sorted sector location. So it's a bind event by class. This is that plugin that I am in the process of removing, but for now the Galaxy Gen is using 2 broadcasts, and I need to change a whole bunch of stuff to remove it. So sector locations sorted. Oops. So every time the ship moves 1 light year, the Galaxy Gen reorganizes the data by distance to the ship. So this global event is called every time the ship moves, which is why there's a little bit of a hitch sometimes, because it's having to basically reorder an array of some 30,000 items. It worked, AJ, it worked. We'll just go with Earthlikes for now, Anasi, because it would require some kind of drop down or more room than we have on the radial menu. We'd have to probably branch out where we go something like search for object, planet, and then either terrestrial or gas, and then from gas it goes like class 1, class 2, class 3, and then terrestrial would be like lava world, Earth-like, blah 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 blah. So we'd need quite a lot of nesting to find the thing that we're looking for. Again, we have very limited room on the radial menu. So what this does is this captures the array of all the star systems within 50 light years of the ship. As you can imagine, usually there's a lot of things in this array. But being armed with that, what we can then do, and we're only doing this if the right star system is not already targeted. So this is how we figure out which one. In fact, let's rename that to sorted sector location so we know what we're dealing with. Now, because it's sorted by distance already, we know that the likelihood of the thing that you're scanning is probably going to be fairly close to the ship. So it's probably in the first 10% of the data anyway. So we'll never reach the end of the array unless you just happen to have picked the furthest thing away to scan. But generally speaking, this should be fairly limited in terms of how much of the array it loops through. So all we're going to do is compare the galactic coordinates of the relevant star system with the coordinates of the active order. So if those match, then we want to fire our selection. We want to just give it this array element as its sector location, and then immediately break out of that for each loop, which means we don't need to keep checking the rest of the array, and that's us done. So that should in its entirety target the correct star system, and then from that point, 1 second later, when it comes back and checks, then this will suddenly be correct. And we need to focus on it as well, of course. So yes, we go to long range mode, we wait a quarter of a second, we loop this array to find the correct star system, and then we need to focus on our target. So we need to go back to here and work out what our focus target shortcode is. I need to reorganize these so that they're in the same order as the other ones. That one. Oh, no, not that one. Okay, so focus command target is doing two things, and we just want the one thing. So if we take that, though actually, if we see what that's doing. Yeah, we actually, rather than setting up a custom event, we can skip the middleman and just action the button press directly. To be honest, all of these need to be converted to just the raw action Makes life a bit easier. Okay, and then we need to send sensors focus target when we press the button. Okay, so we first of all go to long range mode, we wait a little bit, loop the array, find our matching system, break out of the array, and then go to focus target. But actually, there is something we need to do here. Is we need to only do that if we have matching search criteria, because if we don't, then we are changing to the wrong mode too soon without the relevant target. So a criteria match is true, then we go to the right mode. Otherwise, we don't. We just we wait, basically, because if we've looped through this entire array, and I hope we don't get to that point, but if we have and we still haven't hit a target, then either we are not where we thought we were in terms of when this order was raised, or something else has gone on where the list of star systems around the ship is not where the order is looking. So the most likely cause for that would be the ship's flown off somewhere else, and it's taken that long to process the order. But we will have to test that and see where it falls over. Select correct system. Okay, so that should be all the logic the NPC needs to do a long range scan. Just need to remember what the order was on the radial menu and how that links into it, because it's probably the case that we want to scan the command target specifically. Yeah, so if we do Alpha Centauri, so what we want on the long range sensors is conduct survey. So that should switch to it.
Long range survey. Initiating long range survey. Initiating long range survey.
Okay.
Initiating.
I can see a problem with that. So yes, so the reason that it kept going over and over and over is because it's not checking to see whether there is already a survey running. So we need to do one further check here. Oops. And that's going to be a wait. Okay, and our check in this instance is, are we already scanning? Because we don't want to begin scanning if we're already scanning. So we get sensors data, and then if we grab all that lot, grab that. these need to be the other way around. Okay, so if we're already scanning, just wait, do nothing. If we're not already scanning, then we can start our scan. Okay. So we don't actually have a scan command target skill on here because we need it to be just generic perform long range survey. So let me just check the radial menu because I can't actually remember what we were sending for that. Actually, it wouldn't be on the radial menu, even it would be on here. So long range. That was it. Conduct survey. So sensors long survey. That's what we're sending through. Yes, so that's fine. And then on the player controller, it comes through here. Sensors long survey. Yeah, and then we're just grabbing the current command target and then raising that order. So we should see the name and the coordinates in the list. So let's just make sure that we do. Yes, that is fixed, Melissa. I went to great lengths to sort that out. When I sit in a chair, you'll notice on the test build, when I exit the chair, you see it's fired a little line trace at the ground. Well, every time I exit the chair, it will fire a new line trace because it's constantly looking for the best position. And if I kind of move and get up, sit down, move, get up, it will always try and exit the chair forwards. If you can't exit the chair forwards, like there's something in the way, if I do it over here, then you see it's got out the chair sideways rather than forwards. And if I wedge it in a corner, you see it dumped me out behind, just there. So what it's doing is there are 3 set locations, so in front and either side of a chair, and those are always there on every chair. If all 3 of those set locations are blocked, then what it does is it uses the NPC nav mesh and it picks a location that's valid on that nav mesh within a certain distance of the chair. So we know that that's definitely somewhere the player can stand. There are still some issues with tables and things, and if 2 chairs are like too close to one another, because yeah, just like that, it will try and exit into the chair and dump you into a ceiling or something. I've not been able to work out how to stop it doing that yet. You see there, it tried to, it basically treated that area as a valid part of the nav mesh when it isn't. It might be actually that the nav mesh generated on top of the table, in which case I need to put a blocking volume on it. But yeah, that's basically how it works. So since I've done that, it cannot put you outside of the ship on top of the bridge, because it's no longer teleporting the player character like it was. Because what it used to do, it used to store the player character up there on top of the bridge, and it would just basically hide you there out of the way. And then when you exit the chair, it would teleport you from up there back down to where you were by the chair. But what it does now is it makes you invisible in place and just removes collisions. So it's no longer having to physically teleport you to the top of the bridge. And all of that combined means that bug should now be fixed. Hopefully, anyway. It's about as fixed as it's going to get. Right, let's select Barnard's star this time. Okay, so I've selected the star system, and from a command perspective, let's say we're the captain, we've just selected that star system. We want minimal amounts of flaff when trying to issue the command to scan that system. So what we want to be able to do is just speak to our sensors person. We can't really avoid having the 4 sensor mode options on here, so we will have to click long range. So that's one click you have to do, but the next click should be do the thing that you want. So we've selected the mode, and now we just want them to conduct a survey. So they should...
Initiating long-range survey.
There we go. So they've made sure the right system was targeted, they've focused the sensors on that mode, on that target, and now they're doing the long-range survey. And then whilst that's happening... Oops. Yeah, so it has been...
Survey complete.
So it did, very briefly, it did say Barnard Star, so that's good. And then as soon as all of these planets had level 1 data associated with them, the task manager thought, right, okay, that's it, the job's done, and it removed the orders. So that's exactly the sequence of events we wanted to see. So we should now, although I don't think I've hooked it up yet, we should be able to say back to overview, and that should raise an order to go back to the long range mode, which, yeah, so the order is raised, so that's valid, but we don't have the NPC skill for that yet, so let's just build that. But that was good, so they did exactly what was asked of them. Which means this logic chain is working. Medium range, of course, was much less complicated because medium range doesn't require having the sensors focused on a particular target. It just runs like where it is. So when it comes to cancelling the long-range survey, that should be really, really simple, actually, because our first check is, are we currently running a survey? So we don't want that, we want that. So if that is true, then we can stop it. If it's false, then yeah, we'll just do wait. Do nothing. Oh, actually, even better, that is actually a complete. Not scanning, nothing to do. And the task manager will have already have deleted the task anyway by this point, so that will rarely fire. The naming of these condensed graphs has to be globally unique. So I'm going to have to do like the medium range and short range versions of these. Okay, so action, and that's going to be cancelling the scan, and that's quite simply the case of sending one button press. And then we don't need any of that. So that's our logic. And that's just a case of giving it the right action ID, which we get from our UI. So do we have a cancel? We do not. So we'll take that one and we'll just add cancel. And then we'll find out what the button was for that. So long range, just find the keyboard input for doing the survey. There we go. Oh no, we're going to cancel it, don't we? Oh, did we press the same button again? I think we do. I think I actually made that a toggle. So yeah, so if we send the same button press again, that should do the trick. So we move that lot out the way. That can park in there. Okay. Right, let's make sure that actually works. I agree, Sirius. Yeah, it's with a lot of this stuff, there's a whole bunch of logic, and it makes it much easier if you can see it visually and understand it with your eyeballs. Because I find that if I'm trying to think through the entire logic chain in my head, I immediately get halfway and get lost. So being able to just stare at it really kind of helps get your head around it. Right, so start doing a survey.
Initiating long-range
Okay.
survey.
And now we want them to stop doing the survey. Cancel survey. No, that did nothing.
Initiating long-range survey.
I'm wondering whether the code for changing that button to the abort button isn't firing when we're sending it via the NPC. So we just need to make sure that that actually does happen.
Long-range survey complete.
Right, so if we click it there,
Initiating long-range survey.
okay, that's now abort. Okay, and if we do it from here, of course it's gonna immediately not do it because this system's already fully explored. So if we select a different one, so the nice thing is that Obviously, we've targeted something which isn't on there visually, so they should go ahead and retarget the right thing, which they've done.
Initiating long-range survey.
Okay, so the abort button does come up. So if we tell them to abort, okay, so we must be sending something different when we hit abort. Let's have a look on here a minute, see if we can figure out what it was. I'm sure people are probably thinking, well, don't you know you built it? But never underestimate my capacity to forget things. Okay, so we're sending that when we initiate. Ah, okay. So we need to make sure that we send everything through this function. Is it? Oh no, it's a collapsed graph. Right, so scanning is false. Then it should say initiate survey. So all of this should still be firing. Hang on, let's just make sure that it does the renaming of the button backwards after it completes. Okay, I'll look into that. So are you saying that if I initiate that, it doesn't abort? So we've got Explore System on here. So if I go to cancel current orders, okay, and that's not disappearing. What about from here? Oh, it does from there. Okay, so if we tell it to explore that system, so we'll start exploring that one. Yep, okay. Orders come up there. Cancel order. Okay. Explore that one. And cancel current orders. Okay, so yeah, you're right. So from the radial menu, it's not cancelling it, but you can cancel it from here on the command console. So that should be working in the current build. I shall investigate the menu and find out what's different. Whatever we're doing on there, the radial menu should do the same. Yeah, I'll have a look. Like Firster says, these are all new systems, so we need to go and go through it all in detail and make sure that every edge case has been tested. Right, so let's just do a survey of that system.
Initiating long-range survey.
I just want to make sure that this button goes back to the normal initiate survey text after it's completed.
Long-range survey complete.
It does. Right, okay, so we know that's working. So why won't it abort? That's the next question. Okay. Okay, so we're sending that action ID as part of that. Because every time we do a button press on the sensors, we can send these action messages with it to trigger certain events based on the string, and then we can just switch on that and decide what to do. So we must be missing something from here. Where I'm getting confused is that when we begin the scan, we're sending this as our action ID. But it's the same button that we're simply turning into the cancel button. So we're just changing the text on it to say cancel. But it's always ever going to send the same button ID. I don't think we're... Oh, unless we're handling that on the parent blueprint. Hang on, let's have a look. Okay, so that's sending that from there, but why? So we're not even switching on anything other than the fact that the sensor's data should say that it's scanning. So hang on, let's make sure that it does. So if we are sending long range survey, so we're sending that, and we are setting scanning to true. Okay. Okay, so when we resend that again, what it should be doing is it should be picking up that scanning is true and running cancel scan. Let's try that again a minute. Something somewhere is not adding up.
Initiating long-range survey.
Okay, so it's definitely gone through because it's renamed the button. So if we abort that manually, I think that's what's doing it, isn't it? So the order to do the scan exists. So if we cancel it,
long-range survey complete.
Okay, so the complication here, I can see what's happening, is there's already an orders in the system to perform a long-range survey. So of course that set of orders is still going to be active. So even though we've sent the orders to cancel, all it's going to do is start scanning again, because we're not getting rid of the original orders to survey this system. So what we need to do is we need to add an additional step whereby we clear off those existing orders. So that's what's happening. That's the logic fail that we're coming up against. Yeah, so as part of our cancel survey, we need to do one check first. So we need to get our orders manager, which is an awkward one because we don't have a reference to that. Okay, so we're going to have to grab a reference to it. Actually, we should have a reference to it because we are checking sensors tasks. Yeah, we do. It's there. Oh, of course, because this is not the parent blueprint. That's why. Yeah, ignore me. We went through this on a previous stream where keep forgetting that this is a child class, not the parent class, and the parent class is what captures the task manager. So what we need to do is go through our list of bridge orders for the sensors. So we need to, for each, oops. And I guess we won't bother breaking this, we'll just go through all of them. Although, well, actually no. What we'll do is we'll get the first thing in the array, because the first thing is always going to be the thing that's being active right now. So if we're sending, in fact, we won't even have the ability to cancel a scan unless that scan is already in progress. At which point, that's definitely going to be the first thing in the array. So we'll assume that to be our active order, although just to be sure, we will also double check that it equals before long range array. So we will just double check rather than fully assuming. Yeah, so we'll get the first one, and if that is indeed the one we want it to be, then we will cancel bridge orders on the sensors, and we'll give it the ID. So when we call cancel scan, it'll first of all remove that particular set of orders from the sensors. Yeah, I will do this as a sequence because we don't want. I was going to say I'll just continue on from this true check, but if it's not, well, I suppose if for some reason this wasn't the valid set of orders, then there's no point cancelling it anyway. Oops. Let's try spelling it right. No, that's just all the wrong spellings. There we go. So that was resending the same thing again. I think just to give us a little bit of breathing room, we will just stick in a 1/4 second delay so that we just give it a moment to clear off this set of orders before sending a new one through. Okay, let's try that. Okay, long range. There we go. take Alpha Centauri again. Right, so start conducting a survey.
Initiating long-range survey.
Right, so this time it should remove that from the list. So cancel survey. Interesting. It should have got rid of that one before before being able to action this one. No, of course. Right, no, right. Hang on, I know what's happening. So when we raise the order, we need to make sure that we force it in front as, rather than appending it to the next order, we force it to be the first order, so that the next tick, the NPC sees the cancel order before continuing with the scan. So on here, so this is where we raise it from the player controller. So cancel long range survey needs to be flagged as immediate, so that comes up first. So from the NPC's priority perspective, they should now hit that one and then dump the orders after it. So that gives us the long range, target a star, start surveying that system.
Initiating long-range survey.
Okay. And then the cancel order should appear at the top of the list. And are we going to do it? It's definitely at the top of the list now, so that's something, although we're not actioning it. So once the survey completes, both of those should vanish, because that was the criteria check for both of them. So we just need to check why was it not actioning that? So, oh, right, okay, because we inserted it at the beginning of the array, which means that was failing the check. So we want the second item in the array, essentially, which would have been the current active survey. Bloody confusing this, isn't it? Yeah, I wasn't polite enough. Right, let's scan that system this time. Okay, 5th time lucky.
Initiating long-range survey.
Right, so there's our survey. The cancel order should go in above it. So it should get actions. Okay, so it did remove the survey order, which means I should be able to abort it manually. Okay, and then that's satisfying all of that. So that half worked. So this bit worked fine. That bit worked fine. This bit did not. Oh, did we give it the wrong payload? I bet we did. Because it's not that we want to send. It's the one from here. So we want that one. So sensors cancel long range survey. That one, the one we wanted. Again, I cannot use enums for this because we have the same struct being used by all the bridge stations. So we need to have like 11 different structs in the same global struct otherwise. So by using strings, it means we don't have to have a different struct for everything, or a different enum for everything. It's I don't know whether that's kind of a false economy, but that's kind of what we went with. It works, it just means it opens up the room for human error. It's a good question. No, the NPC doesn't care what's on the UI. When you as the player press any of these buttons, it sends an action ID based on the button you pressed. So each button has an action ID associated with it. The channel that action ID is sent down is the same channel that the NPCs use. So all they're doing is they are sending the button press without having physically pressed the button. So the UI updates accordingly, and it behaves as if a player has pressed it. But no, they don't physically press the buttons. So you're right, if that is up and in the way, then technically they shouldn't be able to press anything that's under it. But they still can, because they're doing it via a back door. But it's as close to them pressing the button as it can get. Okay, sixth time lucky. So long range survey task is there, and cancel. Oh, hurrah! Great. So I should. Oh, that's interesting actually. So if I start a survey and then I get the NPC to cancel it, it won't cancel it because we are checking. We're checking against this. So I'm wondering whether or not we just bypass that. So if the orders that we're checking match, then we cancel those orders, wait a little bit to ensure that they're disappeared off the system, and then go ahead and issue the orders to cancel the survey. But if that isn't the correct set of orders, then we'll skip that, but still then issue the order to cancel. And that should mean that whether the NPC is scanning or I've just come along and hit the button, the NPC is able to recover from that gracefully without getting confused. Because ultimately we don't want to get to situations where we've got a whole bunch of tasks stuck in the queue because their objectives are suddenly unreachable. I mean, we can, if need be, come over here and cancel them from here, and that clears them off the system. But it's better to not have to do that. Right, let's try that again. So this time, so I'm going to start scanning myself.
Initiating long range survey.
And then I'm going to ask the NPC to cancel it. Ah, there we go. Great, so that takes care of both scenarios. So whether I initiate it or they do, it doesn't matter.
Initiating long range survey.
And that's good. So they were able to do it whilst on that page as well. Let's also try, just for giggles, if we go to a completely different star system, and I just bring up the details to that. Now I've already got a command target set still, so as long as I don't click on anything there, the existing command target is still valid. So what I want to see is, do we go back, target the other system, and start surveying it, or is it going to erroneously start surveying Sirius? Oh, no, let's go to the right mode. Hang on, let me just do that again. Okay, so we're targeting some random planet in the Sirius system. So I want to now conduct a survey which is on the command target, and I suppose see, that's an interesting one. Let's see what that does.
Initiating long-range survey.
Right, yeah, so it's gone to the original command target system. Okay. These are those edge cases that I'm talking about. So if we go to Sirius, right, if I target a system, well, I target that planet there within the Sirius system, what's it gonna do? Yeah, so it's not going to let me survey this system, because the thing I have targeted is a planet within that system, and that's kind of a failing, because we still want to be able to survey this system. So I think what we'll do is we will change the logic ever so slightly from here. Yeah. I quite fancy a kebab too now. Oh. So the logic we're running here is, if we have a command target, and that command target is a star system, then we can conduct a survey on that command target. Otherwise, the conduct survey button is not there. But there is a scenario where, like we just covered, if we are currently focusing on a star system, then we should be able to use that instead. So if our command target is not, well, hang on, get my head around it. This needs to be more specific. So if our command target is a star system, and indeed that we have a target, and our long current page, wrong equals, is sector locations, Okay. It's important that we're specific about this because we need to change the wording. So survey command target. And I think we might need to switch up our actions on this. So if that's not the case, if those very specific set of circumstances are not met, then the next check we do is this. So if our current long-range page is system locations, so where we're currently focusing on a star system, then we just generically conduct a survey, or we can say something more specific like survey this system. So the distinction between the two is if you're looking at all the stars and you've got one targeted, then you're specifically targeting the command target that you're looking at. Otherwise, if you're looking at a star system already, then that's the system you want to conduct the survey on. So you're coming at it from two different directions, and even if you've got a command target set somewhere else, you still want to be able to survey the current system. So it's probably better to word it that way. Now, when it comes to the processing of this, which is where we do that on the player controller, so we've got our sensors long survey. So if we rename this, so sensors long survey command, and then current, actually survey this, because the current system again is that could be the system you're actually in. Right. I just closed the thing I wanted. That's no good. Right, so that's survey command, and that's survey this. Okay. And then if we are, so if we don't have a command target and we're not currently focused on a star, then false will correctly just skip generating any option to survey, because then there's no valid option for that anyway. So that takes care of that logic, and then we need to make sure that we cater for that on here. So that's conduct long-range survey on the command target, and conduct long-range survey on the current focused object. Just make sure that, so we're getting command target, blah, blah, blah. So rather than getting our command target, what we're going to do instead is we're going to get our sensors data, and we are going to grab our sensor selected sector location, yes, which is not the detail version. So that should be the selected star system that we currently have. And then we need to make our helm target and construct that from the data we have here. So, oops. So give it a name. The primary object, was it that one? No, don't think we actually have that. So it could be star system anyway, that's fine. So it is a star system, yes. Galactic coordinates. Radius is irrelevant. Yeah, that should do it. Yes, and then we'll do that and that. Okay, so rather than using the command target, we're grabbing that from the sensors instead. So let's just double check that this works, because I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the right reference. No, it will work out, trust me. So the logic here is, and again, we want to make this as free-form and approachable and as quick and easy as possible. So the logic is that the command target is whatever the captain or XO or whoever clicks on. If the janitor walks up to the holo display and clicks something, then that is set as the command target, because it's the holo display which is storing that as a thing. So that's our command target. Now that exists in isolation to whatever the sensors is doing. So if the sensors selects a different system like that, and I need to make sure that it doesn't lose the command target when it refreshes. But you can see the command target and the sensors target are two different things. So if we were to now go to the radial menu, it will survey the command target. However, if we align to Barnard's star, it will now say survey this system, because we are now focusing on Barnard's star. So when we tell it to do the survey, we want to make sure that it's surveying Barnard's star now, not the command target. The command target is still valid, but we're currently not using it. So survey this system.
Initiating long-range survey.
It should be doing Barnard's star. At least I hope. Yes, it is. Okay. So if we abort that scan, so cancel that. Okay. Now we're still looking at Barnard's star. So if we now tell it to, of course, no, now it can't now do scanning of the command target unless we go back to the overview, and now we've got survey command target. So in this instance, it will now start surveying
long-range survey.
the other system, which was Luton's star. So it's now properly handling having two different targets to be working with, and we want the override to be whether or not we happen to be looking at a specific system. So yeah, so if we come down to Sirius, if we now tell them to do a survey, again, the expectation is that they're going to do the survey on the system that you're currently looking at, not the one you targeted 10 minutes ago. Although, at the same time, I'll give them the back button in a minute. I guess in terms of giving the captain freedom of choice and freedom of action, we want you to be able to click on a command target on the holo display. Now the quick option is just to say survey the command target. Okay, fine, just go ahead and do that. Or we want to be able to say align to command target, which isn't set up, which will bring up that. So you've now got the NPC to align to that target, or align the sensors at that target, so you can see that system overview. And now you can make the decision, are we actually going to do a survey or not? So it's just giving you that freedom that if you just want to look at something, you can do it without having conducted a survey, but then you still get the option to survey on top of that if you want to. So it's about providing the options that are relevant at the time and have them always be relevant to what it is you're currently looking at. And that should hopefully make the whole thing a lot more intuitive and easy to use, because it should never show you something on the UI which is not relevant to the moment, because then it's just unnecessary bloat and unnecessarily things to click on that might not necessarily do anything useful. Okay, so we fixed those things. So the next thing is providing the back button. I noticed that this. So align to command target. We are leaving the menu open, and then we're refreshing it. Why are we refreshing it? Oh, I suppose so it gives us the new options. Okay. Right, so we need to basically handle that. So focus command target. So we're taking a reference to our command target, creating our orders to do that. And then on our task manager here, focus on command target, which is this one. So we're just making sure that the current page is correct and we're on the right one, which is matching our orders. And then if all of that lines up, then we can remove that order from the system because it's correct. Actually, I may as well leave all of these up just so we can double check through them. So the next thing we need to do is make sure that we add the logic here for focusing on command target. So similar, actually, if we do that one, similar to before, before we align to the target, we need to make sure that we have the correct thing targeted. So we'll go through and make sure we're on the right sensor mode, and make sure we have the right thing targeted, and then align to it as required. So basically it's this, but not the final survey. I don't, AJ, no, because I don't have all of them to hand. I can tell you that it definitely works on the Quest 3. It definitely works on the Valve Index. I do have a Quest 2 behind me, which I've not tried yet. And I've also got an OG HTC Vive that we can try it on. Technically, it should work on every headset because it's just using Steam VR. So if that headset successfully works with Steam VR, then it should work with the game, basically. It's using the Steam VR OpenXR runtime, and as long as the headset is compatible with that, I don't see any issues with it. The main issue will be buttons and whether or not the controllers have the required buttons. But there are less controllers than there are headsets, so that's less of an issue. But I need to go through and test each controller in isolation to make sure that those things actually work and make sure we have enough buttons on those controllers. Like for picking things up, we're using the grip button, and the grip button on, say, the Quest controllers are different from the Index, which again is different from the Vive. Like the Vive has an actual clicky button that you squeeze, whereas the Index has pressure sensors. So it's each controller is different, but they should have the same general grip functionality. But yeah, and this is why we're trying to condense actions into as few buttons as possible within the game, so that controller compatibility is easier, and VR controller also is easier because there's very few buttons that you have available to you. Yes, we're taking it slow with VR and making sure we do it right. But it is coming along. It's playable in VR. That's the main thing. The main issue right now is performance, because there's a bug in the current version of Unreal that we're using. Losing my voice again. Where stereo rendering doesn't work on the non-forward shader. So if you're using forward shading, it's fine. You can use stereo rendering. If you're not, then it causes a hard engine crash. So we're missing out on all the performance benefits of stereo rendering, which means that our VR rendering cost is artificially a lot higher than it should be. In 5.7, I believe that's been fixed. So when we eventually do an engine upgrade to 5.7, VR performance should increase significantly with that stereo rendering support. But right now, because we're using deferred rendering, because of all the niceties that brings, it does mean that we are subject to that crash, which is annoying, but what can you do? But yes, the next public build will have VR for what it is. We're just going to have to just put a bit of a disclaimer on there for the performance, just to make people aware that there is a known bug. Stereo rendering's not working. So yeah, it will be laggier than it should be. That said, it works fine on my PC, but then I do have a 4090, so. Yeah, I mean, one of the best things in VR is you can walk up to a console on the bridge and just physically just press the buttons. Like it's very one-to-one, very intuitive. Sitting in chairs is going to be a challenge. I haven't quite figured out the chair sitting side of it yet. But yeah, you can you can stand on top of the chair as if you were sitting in it and press all the buttons. Okay, so let's just do the same checks here. Okay, so these are going to be slightly different. Okay, so are we on long range mode? Are we focusing on the right target? Now granted, that menu option won't be presented unless we're on that page anyway, so we don't need to worry about checking to see whether we're on the right page. So we don't need to check that specifically. We just need to check that we're focusing the right. Check that we're targeting the right star system. That's the only thing that actually matters at this point. And then if we are, then we can go ahead and do the focus, which is that. Okay, and we don't need any outputs on that. Don't need those. Okay, so are we on long range mode? No. Switch to long range mode. That should just be that. Yep. Are we focusing on the right target? Just check the target. Yes, we are. If so, do that. If we're not focusing on the right target, then that's where we have to. We can skip that because we know we're already on the right mode. Yeah, find a criteria match and then target it, and we don't need to do that or that. So we're literally just targeting the right object. If that object is not in our sensors data, then we do nothing. Okay, that should be it. That should be all the logic we need for that. Focus on command target. Let's give that a quick whirl. It does game on Scorpio, yes. So right now we've only got teleport or thumbpad movement. The teleport is just an instant teleport, and thumbpad just slides you around as if you're using mouse and keyboard. I'm also at some point going to implement a seated VR mode, because right now our VR mode is room scale VR. So on the launcher on Steam, I want to distinguish between seated VR and room scale VR. Obviously, room scale expects you to be walking around and physically standing there and waving your arms about, whereas seated VR will have it so that it's still mouse and keyboard controlled. You're just sat down as if you'd play the game normally, using the VR headset as a monitor, although being fully immersed in the VR viewpoint. So you can still look around, you're still like fully in VR, but all the movements are keyboard and mouse still. I would probably play it like that more than I would room scale, because it's nice to be able to just run up, sit in a chair, and you're looking down at the console, and yes, you might still be using the mouse to click things, but you can still look around and be in that environment, just without what is often the hassle of being in room scale. Okay, so we want to be able to align to command target. Okay, so that worked. That was good. The issue, and it did update the menu eventually, but it did take a while. So if we go back, right, okay, so yeah, I remember now. I remember why we did this. So because there is a delay in the NPC carrying out the action, and because we not just want but need to have the menu refresh and update, we need to wait until everything's changed and the NPC's done what they were supposed to do before we can query the system to update the menu. So that delay is just going to have to be there, because otherwise we won't have the same options on here that we need. Let's make sure that those work. That doesn't appear to be working particularly well. Why are we not zooming? Interesting. It's flashing like it's trying to zoom, but it's not actually doing the zoom. I shall have to look into that. I'm assuming that still works. Yeah, that one's working. I'm assuming it also works from here. Yeah, that still works. So it's just the overview mode. Oh, that's interesting. It says back to overview when it shouldn't do. Oh, and this too. Oh, I bet that's because I've obviously changed the menu and just hit the back button on there, but it hasn't rebuilt the menu to update to the current situation on the sensors. I bet if I close that and reopen it, it should have updated. Yes, that's better. Another gotcha to be aware of. Okay, so what's next? Yeah, true that, true that. Right, so the next thing we need is the back button. So this one's nice and simple. We should just be able to tell them to press a single button. Although we will do a little bit of logic just to make sure we are on the right menu option before we proceed. Return to long range overview. So again, this particular menu option won't be presented unless we're already on that mode. So so we're already checking to see whether we're actually on that page. So in many ways, we don't actually need to go through the process of even checking if we're on the long range sensors, because we know that to be true. I'll leave it there for just in case's sake, but that will be true 99.9% of the time. And we don't need to check. Don't need to check that. So all we need to check is long current page. Oops. So if we're on system locations, then we will go ahead and go back. So go back to our sector overview. Back to overview. And for that, we just need to know what the code is, which is that one. So we're just sending that. Nice and simple. And if we are, let's get the question right so I don't get confused. Are we on the focus view already? Actually, not already. So if we're not on the focus view, then there's nothing to do on this anyway. So that should be it. That should be all the logic that we need. So let's just give that a quick whirl. We should end up with the same delay, I expect. Let's do it all from over here. So long range, should bring up the long range sensors. I'm interested in that L-class star. So if you could focus on that, please, which they have done. And actually, no, I changed my mind. I want to go back to the sector listing. Okay, so we need to make sure that this menu updates. So the refresh needs to wait until we're on the right page. So it worked, it went back to where we wanted it to, but we're not waiting to see whether or not the action had completed. So we do need to go into our radial menu system. And we need to make sure that where we've done that, okay, so that, yeah, we need some custom handling for this. So if we switch on a string, so if it's that string, then we do this. And if it is the other string, i.e. this one, then we do the other thing. It's probably best if we collapse all this. If we do wait for criteria, then we can have multiple pending criteria that we can check against. And then we'll just have a bypass if it's not a matching string. So if it's either of those two strings, we'll do our wait for the criteria to be valid. Otherwise, we'll just skip that and go ahead and update the menu. So that would be, might as well just use the same Ujima flips in there. And then we need to duplicate that. So for this one, we're going to be looking to be on sector locations. Just basically waiting for the NPC to actually move us back. Whereas with this one, we're waiting for it to go to the system locations, which is the other way around. And then both of those can just go out the same output. And if we need any other specific criteria checks, we can build those criteria checks into this collapsed graph and handle those accordingly. So now it shouldn't redraw the menu until we are properly back on the sector overview. So long range, please. Grab a star. Align to my target. We're there. Menu updates. Perfect. Back to overview. Menu updates. And then we can go back and forth between those two things, and the menu is updating accordingly. So we've got, on this side of the fence, we've got survey command target, whereas if we align to that system, that's now changed to survey this system. And if we go back, once again we've got survey command target as our option. Doesn't matter if the current sector target and the command target are the same thing, makes no difference, but that's now working. Okay. So the other thing we had was the range button, so that works there, but then didn't work there, but does work on the medium range. Interesting. Okay, next. Okay, so perform medium range survey, and we should already have the code in place for this one. What's that one? I'm going to make sure that I name them the same so that I don't get myself confused. There's a couple of improvements I can make here, just so that we're using our pre-prepared macro rather than going around the houses. Okay, so again, this is ticking once per second. If on the first tick we are not on the medium range mode, then it will just put us on the medium range mode. If we are on the medium range mode, it will just go ahead and start doing the survey. So that makes that really nice and simple. But we do need to cancel that as well. So if we borrow the code we did for the long range, and then we'll basically use that for the medium range as well. So are we currently scanning? That's still relevant, except this one is medium range. Abort medium range survey. So that one needs to be perform medium range survey, and then we're going to go ahead and cancel medium range survey. In many ways, it doesn't actually matter, because what we're sending is firing the same button. Although no, it's not, is it? No, actually forget that, because we are of course drawing a separate button on each sensor mode. So rather than clicking that button, we need the medium range equivalent. That one. So this is the button we need to press, which means we need to send that. So we're just sending the same button press over. But we need to add cancel on here. So we've got medium range survey, and then we will add cancel medium range survey. Let's stick it on the bottom for now. And then just make sure that that is indeed what we are sending through. Let's copy it just to be sure there's no typos. Okay. Right, that should be everything we need to do there. So we should now be able to raise an order to survey a system, and we should be able to cancel it as well. Now it's going to not let us survey the Sol system because the Sol system is already fully scanned, so that's no good. So what we'll do, in fact, why am I using the sensors? We've got an NPC for that now. If we go to Alpha Centauri, then we get the Helm guy to take us there. So navigate to command target. So he'll take us there, and I will now fully cheat and teleport us there. Okay, so now we're within this system. We should be able to ask them to show us the medium range map, which they are doing, and we should now be able to ask them to do a medium range survey, which they are doing. Well done them. And then we should be able to cancel that survey. Right, okay, so it appended to the list, so we just need to go in to here, go to the medium range mode, and make sure that cancel is inserted, actually no, not there, on here. So cancel medium range is immediate, and we'll have the same problem on the short range as well. So cancel short range needs to be immediate, just so that it pops it in the front of the queue. Okay, let's just test that again. Thank you, Max. Yes, please do like, subscribe, share, get the bell on, and all that stuff. In some weird way, it helps. Okay, Alpha Centauri. Go to Alpha Centauri. Hack the system. Right, start the survey. Off we go. And cancel the survey. Hurrah! Did exactly what we wanted it to do. And we haven't even stopped yet. Perfect. Okay. So that's all working. Okay, so perform medium range survey worked, cancel medium range survey worked. So perform short range scan is now the next one. Making sure we're getting that from the command target. Blah 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 blah. Okay. So again, the criteria check on this, and let us just indeed check the criteria list. Okay, this one was an awkward one because we have nothing to compare against. Yeah, that reminds me actually, I didn't actually finish this because we have a data mismatch. So the sensor's data which gets saved contains very little data for a reason, because we don't want to save a huge amount of data. So we've got the coordinates of the system and the number of explorable bodies there are within that system, and then we have an array for each planet within that system, or each explorable object within that system, and that's it. That's the data, and for each of those system bodies, we literally have an ID, which is their seed, and the current knowledge level as an integer. So what we don't actually have is anything to compare against. So if we get our target of interest, we don't actually have an ID or anything here that is relevant as a comparator. So I think what we're going to have to do is add the local coordinates vector to our explored bodies data, so that when we're going through and checking to see whether or not that specific object has been fully scanned, we can compare against the coordinates as opposed to the ID or anything else. And I think having those coordinates available within the saved data, as much as it's going to bulk out that data more than I want it to, I think having it is going to just solve a lot of headaches. So we're going to have to add those coordinates to this struct. And to be honest, I question the need for this even, because we can just count the length of the array. As soon as we create the data for a given star system, we will pre-populate all of the planets anyway at knowledge level 0, so they should all be on there. So we shouldn't need to grab that integer. Yeah, that's probably the cleanest way of doing it. So we'll lose one data point there, which is unnecessary, and we'll add the vector on here, and that should solve all our problems. The short-range scan on ASCII is going to be target-specific, so you will physically target something and say scan this thing, because there will be lots of things in range eventually. Right now, when you're at a planet, there is just a planet and that's it. In the future, it will include all of the moons of that planet and any orbiting stations and anything else which is like within the gravity well of that planet. The short range sensors are designed as such that they will encompass anything within a planet's Hill sphere. So if that planet can capture an object, it will be in range of the short range sensors, because we want to make sure that all the moons are covered and anything around those moons are also covered. That might be a little bit too powerful in terms of being able to identify a ship at the moon when you're at Earth, for example. But we might be able to scale that by radius. So we'll have our maximum range be equal to the planet's Hill sphere, but then we'll have a radius-based modifier on that as well. So the smaller the radius of the target, the less likely the sensors will be able to depict it, based on how far away it is. So if we have range versus radius, then we can tune it from there. But we don't have anything that small in the game yet, so it's currently not a problem. So when you cancel a ship-wide order, it will automatically cancel any particular bridge orders that have a matching parent ID. Because when you raise an order here, see we have a field there for parent ID. So these particular orders are being raised via the radial menu, so they're just direct orders that are being raised against a bridge station. If you have an overall ship-wide order, it's the ship's computer which is then raising those orders, in which case it will associate them by the parent ID, which is the ship-wide order ID itself. So that ship-wide order has an ID, and every sub-command that's raised uses that parent ID. So when you cancel the ship-wide order, it will delete any task with a matching parent ID to make sure that there aren't any lingering tasks in the system. But obviously it won't cancel these ones because these are directly raised against a bridge station, if that all makes sense. Greetings, Walper. For the Sol system Delta, maybe. Yes, first I shall demonstrate now while I speak about moons. So we can potentially add the moon around Earth, but I'll have to kind of cram it in manually into the data rather than have it be subject to the actual data structure of a star system, because we don't have that nested capability yet. But yeah, I might be able to squeeze in the moon. To be honest, I might have to squeeze the moon in as another planet, but we shall see. Sort of, Dave, yeah. So I've got Alpha Centauri targeted right now as a command target. If I tell the ship-wide to basically focus on exploring that system, And then we've got sensors and helm tasks that are being raised back and forth. So right now, we will have the ship-wide order to explore that system, and we've got the helm orders to fly to that system, because we're not there yet. Once we arrive within the boundary of that system, then a sensors command, a sensors orders will be created to do the medium range scan upon arrival. Now that will be running concurrently with the navigation one, because we won't have come to a complete stop yet. Meanwhile, this will be monitoring these to make sure that they're being completed successfully. Now if I go ahead and cancel this, then that will also disappear. So if we cancel that one, you'll see that the helm order is gone. And now we're just kind of floating away in space. So if we bring that one back, you'll see the helm orders return, as does the ship-wide orders. And then if I cheat our way into that system, in fact, let me bring up that screen first. If I teleport us to that system, immediately upon arrival, you'll see that we've now got the sensors orders raised as well. So the sensor station is now doing a medium range survey, whilst the helm is still flying to it. But again, if I cancel those orders, it's cancelled those as well. So that entire suite of ship-wide orders are now cancelled. Now it will go ahead and continue its medium range survey because it already started it when we cancelled the order, but it's gone from here. So we didn't specifically tell it not to. Similarly, we can do an all stop order on the helm, and then they will do an immediate stop of the ship and just stop where we are, basically. So now they're idle, the helm's idle, the ship-wide orders are idle. So at this point, everyone on the bridge is like, okay, so we'll just sit here and twiddle our thumbs for a bit. But yeah, so for, if you wanted to clear out all of the orders, then you just have to go cancel, 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 cancel on this UI. Just scroll down the list, cancelling everything. Like I said, these will get cancelled automatically anyway as soon as their parents cancelled. So that should be enough to stop the crew from doing what they're doing. Yeah, regarding the moon, I do believe I did actually create, yeah I did. So we do actually have the moon here. So I can add the moon into the game because we do have it, there it is. It's about the data structure and making sure that it spawns in the correct location. And is scannable, and you can target it and get to it, and that you can do all the usual things with it that you can with a planet. Because obviously, you know, having it there, it needs to then be interactable, just like a planet would be. And now I think there are some objects in the game that are moon-sized. I think some of the trans-Neptunian objects are kind of that big. Actually, how big's Pluto compared to the moon? I can't remember which one's bigger now. But yeah, so the reason we didn't add moons to begin with is because we didn't have sublight flight. We only had FTL, and you would zoom by things so quickly that you couldn't stop and look at it because the ship was going too quickly. But I've removed the lower limit on FTL for now, just so that you can fly around things quickly, not as quickly. So there's no reason not to add moons in that regard. It's just now down purely to the data structure. But yes, there is there is Luna in all of its glory. And very pretty it is too. This is just a NASA image that I got from the NASA website, so it should be relatively accurate. But yeah, with Artemis 2 ongoing at the moment, I suppose it's kind of topical to add the moon right now. Right, so we were doing short range scan, so form. Okay. Almost at the end of the list. So I guess, yeah, so we're doing this from the command target. So I suppose on the menu side of things, on short range. Okay, so yeah, I am specifically saying command target, because we don't want that to get confused. So scan command target, and that's distinct from the ship-wide order version of it, which is slightly different. But the ship-wide orders version is using the same code, the same skill as such. So we just need to make sure we're not breaking anything there. Okay, so we're checking that. So what I'll do is I shall convert this mess of spaghetti into some actual yes/no questions. Yeah, let's grab ourselves some boxes. I need to get into the habit of doing this more formally every time I do a bit of logic. So are we on short range mode? Is the very first thing we're checking, which is that basically. Right, so that's our first logic check. Okay, if we are on short range mode, then we can do our scan. If we're not, then we just need to make sure we switch to that. So that's nice and simple. range. Okay, so we're not on short range mode. Switch to short range mode. Nice and simple. The next check is, are we already scanning? And then we'll just grab that and that. Okay, so if we're already scanning, then it's all good, do nothing. We will just wait. And if we're not already scanning, then we need to conduct our short range scan. So we've handled that. I suppose, yeah, we need to check to see whether or not we've got the right stars, the right object selected. And for that, we're going to take our target from our active orders, compare it to our selected system object. That's basically it. Okay. So if the correct thing is targeted, we will perform short range scan. If it is not selected, then we will target correct object. Okay. That should be everything we need there. So targeting the correct object is the awkward loopy one. But let's just sort this out. Short range scan. Okay, so that handles that. And then, so we'll look at our sector location details. I need to check. Okay, so if those details match the order details, then we target that object. Okay, that should be relatively straightforward. I suppose the other thing with this is that we need to be within range of that object. So really, we shouldn't be targeting it if it's out of range. So what we also need to check is if it's within range of the ship. So if we grab our ship data and we only want our local coordinates, so if our vector distance is less than let's do send. Need to convert that to kilometers. Oh, I'm sure I had that the other way around. All right. So that would be multiplied by 10,000. Oops. Is it 10,000 or 100,000? I think it's 100,000. Hang on. Let's look at our length converter a minute. Where'd that go? So 1 kilometer is 100,000 centimeters, yeah. Oh no, the other way around, isn't it? So no, we're doing centimeters to kilometers. I know what I mean. So it's the other way around. So it's 1 centimeter is that many kilometers. So we want to multiply it by that. Centimeter to kilometer. And then I think it was 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It was 2 million kilometers, the range. Can't remember now, but we'll use that. So if we're in, actually no, let's make it 3. I can't remember what I said on the sensors. I did set a limit on it. So yeah, so if that object matches both the system and the location of our active orders, and that is within 3 million kilometers of the ship, then we can correctly target that object and make that our current target. Target valid object. Actually, target correct object. Okay. So that should sort that out. But we'll need to make sure that we haven't broken the ship-wide order for fully scanning a star system, because it uses the same NPC skill. So we just need to make sure that it is working for both. It should be fine. And again, our check. Well, our check for completion will fail currently, because we don't have that check against the exploration data for a single target like this. So, actually, need to select it from here, don't we? So that planet is now my command target. It is also the sensor's target. So if we do scan command target, it should scan it. It's not scanning it. Is that working yet? No, okay. Oh, hang on. I think I know what's happening. I think because we're specifically checking all of the planets, then we're removing the orders when we shouldn't be. So identifying the exploration data, fine. But then that's where we need to match against the vector. Okay, so we'll add that vector in there in a sec. Which is going to probably break a bunch of blueprints, but we shall see. Yeah, in this instance, we don't want something having been scanned to preclude scanning it again, because, at least on the short range, because the short range is going to be used a lot for things like alien vessels and alien structures, and it might be the case that situations are changing of all those objects, so running multiple scans might be a thing you want to do. Right, so that's our command target, and we should now be able to scan it without it immediately completing. Scan. Okay, so the orders have been raised. It's the right object, looking at the coordinates. Yeah, so what it didn't do is it didn't target the object. Now I'm thinking that might very well be because I put a range check on it. So let's just kill that range check to see whether that was indeed the problem. So we'll ignore that for a minute, because I probably got the math wrong. So short range, target the planet. Yeah, so it's not targeting. Not only is it not targeting, it's not actually doing the scan either, so that's interesting. Right, where is that failing? Okay, so we should definitely be getting that far. So let's just see, let's see what's happening on there when we try and do it. Okay. And go. Okay, and where is it? That one? No, that one. Okay, so it's failing here. Oh, look, I haven't connected the pins up, that's why. Don't think we can do that live, can we? Can we do that live? No, we can't. As always, it's user error. I do keep glancing across, honest. See if I can change the mode whether it goes back. Okay, so it's doing that. So it's like, no, I want to be on short range. So it's fixing itself there. So where is that failing? Okay, so that's working. Oh look, I did it again. Oh, such an idiot. Right, I'm going to check the others now. Oh look, and there. It's because I collapsed those nodes and then didn't check them. Okay, 16th time lucky. Yeah, exactly that. I collapsed the graph and then just didn't bother like actually connecting anything up. Right, so if I select the planet and then select galactic mode, then the NPC should go through and set it up the way it's needed. Although they'll do that because I click short range. Right, so scan command target. Ah, there we go. Now they're doing it. Now they're going to do that over and over and over because I haven't set up any logic for actually closing off that task. Now before that they will do that, yeah, we're going to have to set up some completion objectives on here. So the easiest way I can think of doing this is grabbing what we've already got there and breaking that over there and then grabbing that. Okay, so that is the obvious thing to compare against. So it's going to have to be, so that vector that we give it and that integer have to both be valid. So what we're saying is if the coordinates match and if it's less than level 3, then it still hasn't been scanned properly, in which case that is true because we're checking our criteria. If we get through the entire system and this never returns true because we never get to the point where we have matching coordinates with a matching value which is lower than 3, then we're good. Although we're probably better off doing it this way around. And then connecting that in there. It's just kind of semantically better. So if the knowledge level is higher or equal to 3 and it's the matching coordinates, and that's true, then we can go ahead and get a shot of that active orders. So now we need to add that in there so that we can actually do that check, which means I need to remember where that struct lives. So this is going to require a recompile of a whole bunch of stuff, I expect. And technically, if we're comparing vectors, we don't actually need the ID anymore. So I might go through and remove the references to the ID and just use the coordinates instead as our matching criteria. Okay, so here's the $1 million question then, is what does the reference chain look like? Ugh, yeah, I thought it wouldn't be small. Okay. Yeah, so all of these basically need opening and recompiling, otherwise it won't package. But that's fine, we'll get around to that. But now we can compare our lovely vector against our other lovely vector, and we can now be absolutely sure that that planet has been scanned. Let's just tidy that up a minute. Pop that over there. Pop that over there. Move that over there. Line that up. Okay. Okay, so raising an order now to scan that particular system, that particular object, should always fail because it's already scanned. So we'll check that. It's true. Claire is the gatekeeper of nonsense. Okay, so this should not be scannable. So as soon as I raise the order to scan it, it should flicker and disappear. Or not. Just to prove me wrong. Yeah, so it's just going to go over and over and over and over and over. Okay. All right then. Oh, right. Okay, so one of the points is we're not capturing the coordinates. They don't exist in the data yet, do they? Because we haven't told it to, quite simply. So on on our nav panel, when we do a scan, and this is confusing to say the least, we're not actually updating the coordinates, so we need to make sure we have the right object and then we add the right coordinates to it. So right, so there's our object, get our local coordinates, pop them in there. Now right now we are obviously comparing seed to ID, and then we're setting the ID as the seed there. But yeah, I will move away from doing that and we'll check purely against the coordinates instead, rather than the seed. So anywhere that we are setting this, we need to make sure that we set those coordinates. So that's the short range. We're going to have to do that one as well. Oh yeah, I forgot it was this blueprint. This sensor's blueprint is so big that every time you click hide unconnected pins, it freezes for a while. Okay, so that's it there, and I think you need to do it again here. So we don't need that one. We do need to know that. Okay, it's that one and that one. I suppose the easiest way to do this, actually, if we look for every instance of this, then we can make sure that we don't miss any. That was it. That was the only 3 that there are. Right. Okay, so now that we are in fact capturing that value, we should be able to do our short range scan, which should happen once and then never again, because we would have then captured that bit of data. Okay, command target selected, and scan the target. Okay, so I'm expecting this to complete once and then not do it a second time, because it will then be in the data. Maybe. Actually, need to make sure we have cancel orders as a thing on there. Right, so if we do a medium range survey, hopefully that will add all of the local coordinates to every single planet. I might need to set the game mode to continue rather than new for this to be working properly. Okay, so they should have all their data now. If this doesn't work, we'll have to do some debugs to find out why. Okay, so that's what I expected to happen. So when you do a scan, it doesn't do it because it's already scanned. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what we'd expect. So so it doesn't even get the opportunity to do anything because on here it will be constantly returning true on there, and to be honest, it's doing it so quickly I can't even demonstrate it, but that's what's happening. So, you know, tick, that's working. Okay, so we've got open and close surface map. Again, that should be relatively straightforward to sort out, and the check on that's really easy. So we'll add that one, and then we'll see whether we can, in the last half an hour, get the sensors to do something slightly more interesting. Okay, Firstus. So that should be fixed now with what we just did. So now that we have an actual coordinate to check against, the sensor's data that you've saved should now be more valid. But you might need to go ahead and do that medium range survey first to populate all of those vectors. Furthermore, all of your current scan data won't contain those vectors, so they'll only be relevant for things that you scan from then on. Okay, so what are we doing? Okay, so that's good. So the next thing we want to do, oh yeah, so cancel short range scan. So we'll just copy the medium range one. Oh, does that not already? Weird. So sensor. So is scanning. Oh, I just realised what I'm doing now. That's why I didn't do it. So hang on, what did I copy? Right, so are we currently doing anything? If not, don't do anything. If we are, then cancel survey. So blah blah blah. Perform short range scan. Blah blah blah. Cancel short range scan. And then we just need to make sure that we have that set on here. Otherwise nothing will happen. And then we just need to find our relevant button for that. So on the short range, there it is. Just do that same trigger. Okay. So we'll just double check that this actually works. So with starting a new game, which it does every time on my test map, it means that we're using data that won't have the coordinates saved for each planet, which means this will successfully scan at least the first time, which means we should have the opportunity to cancel it too. So scan command target, off we go, and then cancel scan. There we go. Great. Nice. Just what we wanted. So the next thing then, let's just get rid of that helm on a minute because I keep clicking on it. Alright, so open surface map, simple order. Which one's got a nice simple button? That one. You're nice and simple. In fact, let's just copy you. So open surface map, and we just need to know what it is we're sending, basically. Is that nice and simple. Actually, so we need to grab a copy of that, and then we will pop them on there. Don't know whether I had that already. No. Okay, so we'll just add 2 more on there. So sensors, short, open map. And close map. Close, spelled correctly. Okay, then we just connect that to open map and close map. Okay, compile and save. And then on the NPC, we'll give them that. And that. Right, and then on our criteria checking, so open map basically just checks to see whether the map is open, and vice versa for closed. This one should hopefully be nice and straightforward and work first time without any faffing about. You there. Hurrah! Okay, so there is a little bit of faffing about in that it needs to redraw the menu to give us the close option, because obviously it adds all the extra stuff. So we close the map. Oops. It's closed it successfully, which is good. But yeah, if we display the map, then we want that to generate all the options straight away, which means we need to, on the radial menu, do our wait for criteria thing. So we need 2 more options on here. Just those there. And then we add those to here. Move that out of the way. So, like before, we just have a certain criteria that we're checking. So this one, both of these in fact, are going to be short range current page. What's this one? So open map, we're going to make sure that surface map is the thing we're waiting on. Otherwise we're waiting on none. Okay, and then we'll have to connect all of these up to the same thing there. Let's just do that to make it easier to see what's going on. Right, so that should delay the radial menu and then updates once those options have been refreshed. Yeah, for some reason, Earth is drawing as just a generic Earth-like world with really bad temperature ratings. I don't know why. I need to look into that. I think it's doing it on the live build too, so it's definitely not a dev build bug problem, it's actually a problem. Okay, so display surface map, and there's all the options. Hurrah! And then close surface map, and that doesn't matter because we are closing it anyway, so that's fine. That's one of those do we need to leave the menu open questions. So obviously if you're choosing to display the map, then you'd want to leave the menu open. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Interesting. Shouldn't have done that. Yeah, you want to leave it open because you want the extra options to mess about with. But if you then close the surface map, one would assume that you don't want the menu to remain open at that point because you're done looking at it. But I will just double check that a minute because it didn't. No, it did that time. That was weird. A couple of times it wasn't coming up with the NPC, but I think I might have just been clicking it too quickly. Yeah, seems fine now. Okay, so at least that's working. So we can display the surface map, all the details come up, so you can do the extra layers and stuff as needed. I think I'm going to reword cancel to done, because generally speaking, you're not cancelling what you're doing. You're saying, right, I'm done. So I think I'll just reword that. Hey, Christopher. All good, thank you. Can't even remember where it was that I was even changing the name of that now. It definitely wasn't on there. Oh, it's tied to a function, that's why. It doesn't need to be actually doing it as a function now, because it never actually changes. Although I'll probably add an icon in the background. As this menu evolves over time, obviously we need to tart it up a bit and make it look nice. That's better. So it's done now. So yeah, done. But yeah, I want to put like a sensors icon in the middle there, sort of denote the fact that this is the sensors menu. And in the same way that I'll put like a deck crew icon around that one and a tactical icon around this guy, just so that it's kind of further distinguishing the menus for the different bridge stations, so that they are visually unique in every way that they can be. Okay, so that's all working. So the other thing that I'll start but won't finish because we're running out of time. We want the sensors to do scripted actions or scripted criteria checking. So say on the long range, other than increasing and decreasing range, we want to give them some extra stuff to do. I might make just an orders folder for them, and then we can do things like seek out Earthlight candidates and seek out tech signatures. I guess if we do the tech signatures one first, because it's easier to flag when we found one. If we're looking for Earthlight candidates, we have to do a bit more math on that one, because we have to work out of all the planets in the system, is there a terrestrial planet within the habitable zone, and is its equilibrium temperature enough for liquid water to exist, but not so much that it would evaporate. So we've got a bunch of stuff we need to check. So when the NPC says, I found an Earthlight candidate, we need to be reasonably sure that what they found could very well be an Earth-like. Even if it proves not to be, it needs to be a fairly decent chance that it could be. So all the numbers are right, it's just whether or not it actually is or not. Whereas for text signatures, it's a simple, is there one or not? So we'll do that one first. So we'll add, to begin with, which we'll have to do from here. So on our long range, We could do the orders from the top category and make the orders a top level category. Or, hang on, let me just go and click on the NPC again. Because again, I want to keep the amount of clicking to the absolute bare minimum so that you're not having to click through menus too much. Because, we really want to minimize the use of menus as much as possible. Obviously, when you're talking to an NPC, it's unavoidable that there has to be a menu involved, but if we can minimize the clicking, that would be good. See, right now, I like the amount of information that's displayed here. It's just, either get a shot of the NPC or you've got your 4 sensor modes. It's nice and straightforward. If I add orders to this, it's adding that extra layer on top. I think I'd also like the menu in a different order as well. So galactic positions over here, and then it goes long, medium, short, as opposed to that way around. But that's just a me thing. Yeah, otherwise orders has to be hidden behind each one of these options. So I think if we're just giving orders to the NPC, I think it's better placed on the top level menu. So essentially you click on the NPC, go to orders, and then you give them something to do, which is more of a high level objective. So yeah, we'll do that. Which means orders needs to go before these. Let's just copy that one. And then I think I will move these the opposite way around. Okay, and then under orders, I guess we need... I suppose this one's going to have to say, so if we say sensors orders, at least that makes it nice and specific for sensors. And the action ID, it's no action ID because it's not an action, it is a submenu. So it's just a submenu. Remain open, we don't need to refresh or redraw, just remaining open. And then our actual options. So we'll do find tech signature and sensors find tech signature. Oh, spell it right. And then we'll have find Earth-like candidate. Sensors find Earth-like candidate. Actually, find Earth-like. Neither of those need to remain open. So the expectation with this is that this will raise an order which will remain active, and the NPC is going to have to go through a more involved scripted process for going on the right mode and then working their way through targets and doing the activities they need to do in order to glean the information that's needed. So both of these will require long-range surveys, although the information they gather will be different. So criteria checking Obviously we've got those two things here already added as valid things that they can do. So we'll have to come up with what the criteria actually is. And the complicated part of this, and the bit that we need to build also for comms, is raising an alert to the command crew to say, I have found the thing that you told me to go and find. So we need to add that. For now I'll leave that blank, so that the orders will just persist and they'll just keep at it until you cancel them yourself on the command console. But yeah, if we just quickly create the orders. Okay. Yeah, it's a shame that these need to be strings, but I will see if I can come up with a better way of doing it, but I don't think it's going to be avoidable given the shared nature of how we use it. Okay. Yeah, and I guess it doesn't matter with that because we're just raising an order. Which one was this? Find tech signature. And that one is find Earth-like candidate. Okay, so that's find tech signatures. Seek out evidence of a tech signature in the surrounding star systems. We'll come up with some better wording for that. Yeah, that's it really. Sensor mode would be long range, not that matters. Doesn't need to be immediate. And then search nearby star systems for an Earth-like candidate. And that will be search for Earth-like candidates. So the idea behind these two particular orders is it's the kind of things which are like part of the standing orders of the ship, which is to find Earth-like candidates for human habitation and human colonization, and to make first contact with alien species for trade and diplomatic relations. So those are like that's the main job of this vessel, to do those two things. So these two orders are kind of reflective of that, where depending on which direction you're going in upon a whim, if you're looking for an Earth-like world to go and check out, then you can give that order to the NPC, and they'll do a bunch of long-range scans until they find something that looks like it could be what you're looking for. They then report back to you as the captain, and then you can make the decision, right, okay, so let's go and actually explore that system now. The other thing we need to do is we also need to, as a general order, go and perform different levels of scans of star systems and objects within star systems. So we need to be able to target a planet. So like in this example, if the sensors guy says, right, I think I found an Earth-like candidate, you need to be able to target that specific planet, and then order the ship to go and perform a short-range scan of that planet. Now that needs to involve both the sensors and the helm, so that's going to be essentially a bridge order, and then the order manager needs to bounce those tasks between those two stations in order to complete that. So that's not something that you're raising on a station specifically, it's something you're raising to the bridge generally. So we need to make sure that we're catering for that as well. And I guess that would just come under the ship-wide orders. But let's just make sure we can go ahead and raise that. So the NPC is not going to do anything yet, but the order should be sitting in the system. Okay, so with nothing targeted whatsoever, we should be able to go, yes, the sensors order. So we've got the extra thing on here now, so they're now that way round, and for me that just flows nicer. So we go to sensors orders, then yeah, we've got these options here. I am going to have to make this bit smaller and these bits wider because we're struggling to make things fit. But yeah, so if we do find text signature, then we should now have an order in the system to search for text signatures. So what they will now then do is go to the long range sensors, pick a star system. We'll have them stick to some logical candidates, so like K, F, and G stars. They'll avoid like M class or anything that's too hot, to maximise the chance of finding something. So they would target, say, Alpha Centauri, align to target, do their long range survey, and if they come up with a text signature, then that'll be complete. So they've basically found one, job done. If they don't, then they'll go back to the listing, pick the next star system, and do a long range survey of that one. And they'll just keep doing that until either you tell them to stop, or until we maybe put a cap on it. So maybe they'll do 10 systems, and if they haven't found one, they'll just say, right, do you want me to keep going, or should I stop now, so that they don't like sit there doing it forever. Although we can decide on that through playtesting and see how it goes. Right, so before I call it a night, let's just do one last thing where on our skills tree here, we need to make sure we add those things to our list of skills. Which one's got pretty boxes? You'll do. Right, let's grab all of them, because it is very much the case that this particular set of orders is going to have a whole bunch of logic associated with it. Actually, let's just steal that entirely. Search for Earth-like candidates. And search for tech signatures. And yes, the more skills we give the NPC, the longer this list will get. This is essentially all of their abilities. And then, so the first thing that we're checking with all of these is, are we on long range mode? And the same for that one, are we on long range mode? So actually let's connect up that on both of them just to get the ball rolling. So again, with nothing else targeted, click on the NPC, sensors orders, find text signatures. They should fire up the long range mode and then get to it. Although right now they will not, because we haven't told them how yet. So the next job is to basically go through all of this and then teach them. So we have to teach the NPC how to go through the process of finding that particular target type. I shall get rid of all these so I don't get confused in the future. And yeah, I guess we'll build that on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll get both of them done on Tuesday, and then we can actually have the NPC performing proper useful work, which will be good. Okay, so that'll do us for tonight, I reckon. Happy Easter again, everyone. It's Easter Sunday, so enjoy your chocolate. I haven't had any chocolate today yet, so I might remedy that with a cup of tea in a minute. But yes, have a great week ahead, and I shall see you on Tuesday for more shenanigans. Okay, have a good one, and bye for now.